Doc Rob at it again. Today we are going to make this sound. Pretty crazy. Okay, so this is kind of what we have going on. I know it looks like a lot, but it's really not that much. So, and then we have this layer too, which is just a blank operator. So let's delete these and make a new MIDI track. So we're going to make a new MIDI channel. We're going to go to our instruments and we're going to grab operator. We are then going to make a MIDI note that is half a beat, 1 beat long. 1 beat, 2, 3, 1 beat long. And I'm going to do it in the key of F because I like it. You can hit legato to make the note long and hold shift and the down arrow key to go down an octave. So now we are at F0 and we have this, which is just like a clean bass note. So the first thing that we're going to do is to get that sound, we kind of want it to have like a pitch down, that kind of sound. So we're going to turn this pitch envelope on, and what that's going to do is make it sound like this, which is close to what we want, but we want a little bit more impact. So I'm going to crank the initial up to 24, which is 2 octaves, and the peak up to 24, which is also 2 octaves right here. So now it sounds a little bit more like a kick drum, like an 808 kind of. And so now what we want to do is we just want to start saturating this. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab a saturator, which is basically just a fancy distortion unit. And I really like the sinoid fold when I'm doing this kind of thing. I think it has a nice sound. I always like to turn the soft clip on for everything. So we crank that up. Starting to sound pretty beefy. Certainly more beefy than before. Okay, so let's also grab a glue compressor. And this is a little trick that a lot of people like to do. They turn the soft clip on, turn the threshold all the way down, and the makeup all the way up. And that gives a really nice compressed sound. And then you can dial in the saturation and distortion that it applies with this threshold knob. So see, that's a lot. But you can dial it back to where it's just at like a little bit. So in between these two plugins, I like to add this, it's an erosion plugin is what they call it. It's basically, if you switch it to wide noise, it'll add some noise to your signal. So if we turn that up, see now there's a lot of like noise, and I like to turn the width up. This gives a lot of definition to your sub. Right there. And then I like to take an EQ8, and we're not going to cut the lows quite yet. We will do that at some point, but I just like to boost all the highs by 10 decibels, however much. I really like to kind of find that spot where it sounds nice. So now we have like a lot of texture on this sound, which is good. That's exactly what we're going for right now, is we're going for texture. So now let's add an overdrive to that. Let's actually switch this before the erosion because it seems like it's boosting that too much. So if we put that before the erosion here, it gives it kind of a more knocky sound. So let's move that up. So before, sort of sounds pretty similar with this erosion, but it still just gives it some extra harmonics up in this area, which is really what we're going for. So now what I like to do is sometimes I'll add more distortion, other times I'll just kind of go around looking for something. And I guess we can go ahead and cut the lows on this, and when we cut the lows on this, we're gonna just layer it with a just super clean sub. So we'll get the nice top end texture from this channel here, and then really clear and well defined low end on the next layer. So I'm going to turn this one on, which I have it defaulting to a low cut at 130 hertz, and that's usually about where I like to cut my bass. I feel like that's a pretty good place to go if you don't want any sub bass. So let's hear what that sounds like now. And I think we could actually even scoot this up to about like right there. So I have it at about 150 now. And we can turn the attack down or up to kind of mess with that transient. Kind of like that up, and we'll try the release. And the ratio. So I'm kind of just messing with knobs until I get something that's nice and textured, like that. And then what I like to do is I like to widen this. So there's a couple of ways you can widen it. You could click on the spread here, but that's not really exactly what we want because that's going to spread the sine wave. So let's try that. It does work a little bit, but I don't think it works all that well. I think there's a better way to do it. The first way to do it, if you have Ableton 11, there's a new device called the Align delay. I think it's a Max for Live device, and it looks like this. And basically what you can do with this is you can put a short delay. It's called the Haas effect. You can put a short delay on either side of the speakers, and what that does is it tricks your brain into thinking the sound is wider than it normally would be. So if you turn the left up just a little, and this isn't audible, you're not going to hear this delay until you start getting to about 100 milliseconds. Once you get up in the upper areas of that range, you start to hear the delay. But if you keep one of them at like 5 and then turn the other one up below or under that, so like say 10, turn the left to 5 and the right to 10, it's going to really widen that sound out. We can actually probably turn this pitch envelope down a little bit since it's so percussive. We don't need it as percussive, so let's turn the pitch envelope down. See how turning that pitch envelope down has kind of like helped our transient. It's also a little poppy at the beginning, and we can fix that by turning the attack up on the operator. So now it's just a little bit smoother coming in. There's not as much of a transient. And it's nice and wide. So now what we can do is we can make a new MIDI channel and put another operator in there. And we can take this MIDI note and we can copy it down below. What I like to do is I like to click on the top of the MIDI clip and hold Option and drag it down, and then I'll copy it. And so now what this is going to do, since we've cut our lows here, there's not going to be actually any bass frequencies in this. If you can hear it, it's not a very bassy sound anymore. But when we layer it with this one, which is all just the bass, it's going to sound really thick and full and wide. See how thick that sounds? And that's usually in mono, so it takes care of the center, and you have this bass on both the sides. Another thing that I forgot to mention that will kind of give this this whole texture chain a lot of articulation, I guess you could say, is if you put an auto filter before this EQ, and if you change it to this notch filter here and move that around, it'll sound like this. So see how it gives it a lot of movement. Also, what you can do is you can change the circuit of the filter. If you change it to OSR, that's meant to like model a Moog ladder filter, I'm pretty sure. You turn the drive up to like to 6. So that kind of has a cool sound. Now to automate that and get the knob to turn for us, what I like to do is you can do automation or what's known as modulation. And I like modulation a little bit better just because I just like the workflow a little better. So you, on any knob inside of Ableton, if you have a clip selected and you right click on whatever knob it is you want to modulate, you can right click on it and go show modulation. And what that'll do is it'll open up this where you can place these points and you can modulate it, and that'll turn the knob for you. So if I do something like this, that kind of sound, what's happening is that envelope that I've created is turning that knob for me. And so you get a really cool movement to that. So yes, that about does it. That's a great sound to use for like a call. If you're thinking about like call and response harmony in music, you can use that that sound as a call to begin a phrase. That's what I like to use these things for. I think it's really effective at that. So yes, have a nice day. Peace.